My topic today is patient preparation etiquettes. Etiquettes or protocols are very important for a good outcome for any surgery. So now with this COVID-19, these protocols have become important not only to protect the patients but also ourselves. So I have a quick question for all of you. What road would you like to take while going to your hospital? Obviously, the second one, where everything is streamlined, people are obeying the traffic rules. Similarly, if we have etiquettes, the whole experience becomes enjoyable for our patient and the doctor. So etiquettes are a set of rules that control accepted behavior in particular social groups or situations. Etiquettes increase efficiency. They help in achieving excellence and safety in patient care, reduces the chances of error, optimizes resource utilization, thereby making our surgery safer and we get happier patients. So patient preparation etiquettes involve a stepwise approach, and it is very important that all our staff from reception, OPD, counselors, nursing staff, and the doctors are sensitized to this. Now that we are all reopening our ORs in the current scenario of COVID, hand hygiene, wearing of mask, and physical distancing are emphasized during each interaction with the patient. During counseling, the patients are encouraged to bring one attendant with them on the day of the surgery. They are asked to bathe, shave, and wear clean clothes on the day of surgery. The counselors call up the patients scheduled for surgery a day before, inquiring about history of fever, sore throat, or any other complaints. And they also encourage them to be on time to minimize the waiting time in the hospital. So on the day of the surgery, a thermal screening and hand wash is mandatory. A mask is important for everybody. The patients are given a self-declaration COVID form, which the patient and the attendant has to fill. Identification of the patient is the first most important step during the whole process. You need to correctly identify the patient, verify the address, check with the face photo on the case file. There are these identification tags available, which you can put on the wrist of the patients. If suppose you're planning for a right eye surgery and this tag is to be put on the right hand, so from a distance also you can understand which eye is to be operated. So, before admitting the patient, check whether the advice has been given, check for the eye. You need to look for allergy. A very important point often forgotten is what language does the patient understand? Is there a hearing impairment? Is there a speech disability? All these things need to be noted and addressed accordingly. Informed consent need to be signed from the patient and even from the doctor. The doctor has to sign in the consent form. Check all the investigations relating to any systemic and the ocular tests are all there and placed in the file. Since most of the patients are elderly patients, doing a pre-anesthetic checkup or a medical fitness will help. Checking for gait, stability, any deformity, and thereby arranging for a wheelchair or trolley for the patients to be shifted, or any positioning changes inside the OR which needs to be informed. All these need to be noted. Very often, most of our patients are anxious patients. So spending a moment, taking some time, talking to the patient, elevating their fear, so that would make the surgery easier and comfortable. Other people who have medical comorbidities, they need to be seen by an anesthetist or a physician, whoever is available inside the OR. In the preparation area, all the jewelry, watches, and spectacles, other belongings, they need to be handed over to the attendant. The hair of particularly of the female patients, they need to be plaited and tucked into the cap properly. If a patient wearing a hearing aid, then it's best to be avoided on the side the surgery is being done. If the patient has a beard, then cover it properly. If the patient is using false teeth, then it needs to be removed. A note needs to be made about the medications the patient is taking, whether it's systemic or ocular, and make a note of what tablets the patient has taken, document it. If it's a diabetic, has the patient taken food? Is he on insulin? Then none of us want a hypoglycemic crisis in the OD. If there is redness or discharge, even in the contralateral eye, consider postponing the surgery. If all the vitals are stable, then the patient is made to change into a clean set of OR clothes. Here now mask has become mandatory. Cap and shoe cover is given to the patient. After verifying the eye, marking of the site can be done with a marker on the forehead or with a micropotame, whichever way. If there are additional drugs to be given like mannitol, then you need to prepare a line and administer the drug before shifting the patient and taking care that the patient has used the washroom before entering the OT. Almost all the ophthalmic surgeries need dilatation. So before we do dilatation, you need to check for allergy, check for the eye in which the surgery is advised. Look, if there is, if the patient is put up for trabeculectomy, obviously you don't want to dilate the pupils there. So a note should be clearly written and highlighted so that such mistakes are not committed by the nursing staff. A fresh drop needs to be opened every day, and each drop which is instilled in the patient's eye needs to be documented so that we don't end up over medicating the patient. Povidone iodine 5% is very important, and that needs to be instilled at least 5 minutes before the surgery. So that should be the last drop instilled before the patient is shifted into the OR. So such type of clutter inside the OT should be avoided. Only keep consumables which are needed for that particular patient inside the OR. For children and physically and mentally challenged patients, sometimes it becomes difficult. So allowing the attendant or the mother to accompany the child, the patient to the recovery area may calm the child. For HIV or hepatitis B positive patients, proper precautions for the personal, for instruments, and for segregation and disposal of waste are important. Sometimes we end up canceling or rescheduling a surgery. Here, you need to stop for a moment, talk to the patient, counsel them, and that would make it more easier. So once the patient enters the OT, there's something called the surgical safety checklist, which is done to ensure correct procedure in the correct eye. So the check is done at 3 points, that is before induction of anesthesia, or before a local anesthetic is admitted, which is known as sign-in, or before the incision, which is called the timeout, and then again before the patient leaves the OR, which is called the sign-out. So this is the surgical safety checklist which we follow. This has the patient's name, the details, what kind of lenses, the packages. They give a clue to what lenses will use. It even has details of the other eye, and there are certain specific instructions also if you want. Okay, that this is put to the attached to the microscope there. So at the end of the surgery, this paper is removed, put back in the file, and the surgical safety checklist of the next patient is put there. So the surgeon and the assisting nurse can clearly see. So before you sign in or administer the anesthesia, it's again important to verify the name, eye, check for allergy, see that the pulse oximeter is attached, cardiac monitors are attached, crash cart is there in case of an adverse event, check for the date of expiry of the drugs, clean the area properly, and at the end, remember to remove the dispose of the needles and syringes. So once then the OR sister, she paints the area, drapes, and after the surgery is complete, once the patient comes into the recovery area, any special instructions of the surgeon, it's to be noted and explained to the patient in the language they understand. The post-operative advice should be written legibly, and you should avoid using certain short forms like BID, TID, or E/D. So all these you should write it clearly 2 times a day. The instructions have to be specific. In the discharge certificate, you also have to give a number where the patient can call in case of emergency. So despite all the precautions, deviations or accidents happen. So encourage the staff to report the deviations, create culture of no blame, have an incident reporting form, do a root cause analysis, and institute measures for prevention wherever needed. So this whole thing is a teamwork, and having protocols in place will make things easier for us and surgery safer. Thank you.